will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. We report the news here honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We also make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. And so we compare, we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report, a very big day in the United States as the Supreme Court has worked to make a decision regarding domestic violence, gun ownership, and whether or not people that have domestic violence orders on top of them get to keep their weapons. NBC has come up with a report, and we're going to take that right this very moment. Lester Holt starts things off on the Wells Report today with big Supreme Court news. Here we go.
Coming on the air with breaking news, a major decision from the Supreme Court that could have larger implications on gun laws nationwide. The justices have ruled that people who are under domestic violence restraining orders cannot possess a firearm. The ruling upholds at least some limit on who can own a weapon. I want to go right to correspondent Laura Jarrett right now to explain. You've read through this decision. What exactly does it mean?
Yes, Lester, this is a major victory for the federal government that wanted to make sure that people who had been deemed dangerous because they had domestic violence restraining orders cannot possess firearms. There have been a slew of different lawsuits and examinations of the exact parameters of this federal law. The Fifth Circuit had tried to strike it down, but today the Supreme Court, by a division of 8-1, saying no, this federal law can stand. And I want to read a key portion of the decision where the Chief Justice explains the reasoning here. He says, when a restraining order contains a finding that an individual poses a credible threat to the physical safety of an intimate partner, that individual may, consistent with the Second Amendment, be banned from possessing firearms while that order is in effect. This had really been an examination, Lester, of a decision just 2 years ago where the Supreme Court gave sort of a redefining of the Second Amendment and the rights of individuals to possess firearms in public. And since that decision, Lester, there's been sort of a cottage industry of different courts grappling with what are those limits? What does it look like? How are we supposed to interpret history and tradition consistent with the Second Amendment? And today the High Court is saying, and we're going to work through the reasoning, but today the High Court is saying there are limits and that if someone is dangerous and has been deemed dangerous, they cannot possess a firearm. So again, a major victory for the federal government and the Biden administration.
All right, legal analyst Danny Cevallos also here with us. What's the wider impact of this ruling?
The wider impact is that this is yet another in a series of very rare decisions by the Supreme Court on the Second Amendment at all. There are only a handful in the last 50 years. And recent decisions had said that the government can disarm people under the Second Amendment if they are not law-abiding and not responsible. The government here argued that that not responsible prong included people who are dangerous. And it's important to note that this doesn't apply to all domestic violence orders. Very specific domestic violence orders where there's a hearing and specific findings that someone is essentially a dangerous person. So the court looked back at historical precedent from the 1700s and 1800s and found analogs, similar laws where people who posed a threat for some reason or another were disarmed. And that gave them the historical basis under the new framework, the new guidance from the court to conclude that the Second Amendment allowed this federal law, which disarms a number of different people. It's really important to note, Lester, this is just one subsection of many subsections of a federal disarmament law. And it's interesting because other parts of this law continue to be litigated, including in front of the Supreme Court, felon in possession and some of the other subsections. So this is just one prong of a law that is very much under attack.
And that is absolutely true. The Fox News reporting on this goes as follows. The Supreme Court upheld a federal law that bans guns for those subject to domestic violence restraining orders. Those are also referred to as DVROs. In the first major test of the Second Amendment at the High Court this term, the opinion was 8-1, which is significant. Many of the conservative members of the court siding with the liberal members of the court to say the following: we conclude only this. An individual found by a court to pose a credible threat to the physical safety of another may be temporarily disarmed, consistent with the Second Amendment. Justice Clarence Thomas was the lone dissenter. Both liberal and conservative justices agreed with the Biden administration there was a history and tradition of keeping firearms from dangerous persons, despite the lack of any specific ban that may have been in place when the Constitution was enacted in the 1790s. The case, U.S. versus Rahimi, is the first major test of the Second Amendment since a high court ruling in 2022, expanding the rights of law-abiding citizens to carry handguns outside the home for protection, and could have major legal implications for several gun rights measures working their way through the legal system and in state legislatures. The conservative majority in the case, known as Bruen, said gun regulations must be consistent and analogous with the nation's historic tradition of firearm regulation in order to withstand present-day constitutional scrutiny. It could also affect current cases that deal with whether current and former drug users can be similarly denied gun ownership, like that of Hunter Biden. You saw that in the NBC report when the opinion discussed responsible persons. Responsible persons are those people that are not on drugs, that are not addicted to drugs. Indeed, the Hunter Biden defense team, was looking for a different opinion in this particular case because that would have disencumbered, if you will, Hunter Biden from falsifying his drug abuse and drug addiction on a federal firearms form, which he has been found guilty of. So we see that there are a lot of implications on this. The case before the court stemmed from a lawsuit that involved a Texas man, Zaki Rahimi, who, under a DVRO, argued he still had a right to keep a gun for self-protection. Rahimi was charged with separate state offenses that began in 2019 with the physical assault of his ex-girlfriend and later another woman by the use of firearms. And so this danger finding, in other words, you have to be dangerous, does appear in the opinion. However, it does also represent a very interesting legal issue regarding domestic violence complaints against another. More about that in just a couple of moments. A Texas court in a civil proceeding found Rahimi had committed family violence, then granted his former girlfriend a protective order that included suspension of Rahimi's gun license. Court records show he was warned gun possession under the protective order would be a federal offense. After repeatedly violating that order, including approaching the victim and threatening her, Rahimi was also accused of firing a gun in public in 5 different locations in a span of weeks. Police then searched his residence, found a handgun, rifle, and ammunition. While contesting some of the allegations against him, he pled guilty to a violation of federal law for later possessing a handgun despite an earlier restraining order, but then appealed. The Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals ruled for Rahimi, saying their federal restriction was unconstitutional. There was no historic analog justifying the burden on individual self-defense rights. The Supreme Court found otherwise, that there was an historic analog in rulings that went back to the 1700s and 1800s. A major question was whether the precise analog now to the 18th century legal concept of domestic violence and gun rights would give modern-day legislatures and courts the discretion to limit gun possession for those deemed dangerous or responsible Friday's decision on the DVRO case was narrow, focusing only on whether the Second Amendment protects those considered a danger to society. This also harbinges some bad news for those people trying to rearm felons convicted in federal and state court. This particular circumstance, that gets back to whether or not a person is a danger to society. Obviously, a felony conviction would make you a danger to society. So those people trying to push the rearming of felons in the society probably do face a negative ruling by the Supreme Court in the future. A major question, we talked about that. The federal decision in the DVRO case was narrow. When a restraining order contains a finding that an individual poses a credible threat to the physical safety of an intimate partner, that individual may, consistent with the Second Amendment, be banned from possessing firearms while the order is in effect. This from Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority. Since the founding, our nation's firearm laws have included provisions preventing individuals who threaten physical harm to others from misusing firearms. As applied to the facts of the case, the statute fits comfortably within this tradition. 6 justices filed separate concurrences, agreeing with the outcome, but offering separate thoughts on the scope of the majority opinion, signaling some concerns with Roberts' reasoning laid out in the majority opinion. Those justices were Sonia Sotomayor, supported by Elena Kagan, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Clarence Thomas, wrote the long dissenting opinion. He said this: "This question before us is not whether Rahimi and others like him can be disarmed consistent with the Second Amendment. Instead, the question is whether the government can strip the Second Amendment rights of anyone subjected to a protective order, even if he has never been accused or convicted of a crime. It cannot. The court and government do not point to a single historic law revoking a citizen's Second Amendment right based on possible interpersonal violence. The government has not borne its burden to prove that the statute is consistent with the Second Amendment's text and historic understanding." Clarence Thomas went on to say the framers and ratifying public understood that the right to keep and bear arms was essential to the preservation of liberty. This did point out a couple of different things. And the couple of different things that we talked about is, okay, so this person is disarmed. Now, is the person in his own home prohibited from using a firearm to defend, say, for example, a home invasion? That's going to be another issue that will very likely show up in a court somewhere at some time, maybe even the Supreme Court. And unfortunately, that next opinion may very well likely be written in blood, the blood of someone who was disarmed, then underwent a home invasion, for example, that involved violence. And we will see whether or not that indeed claims the life of someone who is subject to a DVRO. The other thing about this is that there are times when protective orders are granted when there is not a clear violent intent shown by the person who would be then disarmed. And so when you look at all of this, you say, okay, so what do men do, since it's very unlikely that women will take up arms, although it's happened, obviously. What will happen if indeed men are subjected to what many of those people would say is an absolutely unjustified and unfair domestic violence restraining order? What will they do? So this particular decision does indeed open up a lot of concerns about the future of people who can be justly and unjustly exposed to a domestic violence restraining order. We'll see. But the Supreme Court has ruled. What do you think about that? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. There are great arguments on both sides of this. There are great arguments on both sides of this. In the case of Rahimi, it was very clear that this man was a danger to society and indeed his intimate partner. So says the court. What do you say? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Why in heaven's name was I showing you the placard that entire time? I don't have any idea how that happened. I must have bumped the mouse with my hand, this one specifically. Fishing Shirt Friday in effect today. So put on your fishing shirts as we go through the news and the issues of the day here on the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells thanking you very much for being a part of our broadcast by joining us on the chat room. Yvonne is here, and we're waiting for you on your favorite platform. Make sure you join the chat and call us, 817-379-2172. The Supreme Court rules that people under a domestic violence order that have been proven to be dangerous can have their weapons confiscated by authorities. Do you agree? 817-379-2172. Steve Bannon, a former political and White House aide to former President Donald Trump, who was popular in the MAGA movement, has now asked the Supreme Court of the United States to overturn his conviction for contempt of Congress. This being reported by USA Today. Bannon's move came a day after the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals refused to keep him out of prison while he appeals his conviction and 4-month sentence. Bannon is scheduled to report to prison July 1st. Another former Trump aide, White House aide Peter Navarro, was jailed in March for his conviction of contempt of Congress. Navarro was also convicted of contempt for defying congressional subpoenas for the January 6, 2021 inquiry, and the Supreme Court refused to keep him out of prison. Trent McCotter, a lawyer for Bannon, has argued that if he is imprisoned, he will have served his sentence before the Supreme Court decides the case. But the trial judge and one of the 3 judges on the appeals panel found Bannon's claim that he did not willfully violate the law raises substantial legal questions. Again, this is Trent McCotter, who is a lawyer for Bannon. Bannon contended that he followed his lawyer's advice and did not willfully defy the House. Bannon was convicted for defying a subpoena from the House committee that investigated the Capitol attack on January 6, 2021. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison and is scheduled to report on July 1st. Bannon is appealing by arguing he did not willfully break the law. He relied on his first lawyer's advice that he did not have to testify or provide documents to the committee. This, by the way, is longstanding. You've seen the House Oversight Committee be rebuffed by Hunter Biden and a score of other people who have not been charged and indeed have not even had a citation by Congress put against them. Now, there have been citations from the House Oversight Committee for contempt of the committee that have gone to the DOJ, which is run by Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General of the United States, and they have not moved forward. However, Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon have had their sentences, their convictions upheld so far. Indeed, Peter Navarro is in jail. A couple of questions there. Is he a political prisoner? And once again, the specter of a dual legal system, one for Democrats, one for Republicans, does indeed show its ugly and dangerous head again. We find ourselves in a position where, once again, people like Eric Holder can simply defy Congress and no harm, no foul. Even Merrick Garland himself is in a situation where there can be and should be, in my view, just my opinion, a citation for contempt of Congress. Hunter Biden in a similar situation. Why are we seeing all of this play out? It is playing out right in front of us. Normally this stuff, and I'm talking about, in the pre-Biden era, normally these things were just basically ignored, given Eric Holder's defiance of testifying before Congress. And nothing ever happened to him. So why is this the way it is? Also, there's another problem. This involves January 6th. January 6th is a political show. The January 6th committee was literally a political show that was produced by a former ABC News producer. It cherry-picked evidence and then destroyed the evidence that could have been exculpatory, or at least that the committee hid it so that it wasn't able to be put in the public sphere. Now, some things have leaked out, but Republicans on the House Oversight Committee refuse to open that particular can of worms. And there's no excuse for it. We've got people in jail because of January 6th and protests that have not been matched with other protesters on the left or liberal side of the legal and political spectrum. This cannot stand. A house divided against itself never does. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. Please use it. Waiting to hear your voice. Would like to. There are a lot of issues we need to discuss, so let's discuss them. Let's debate. The Wells Report in progress for Friday. This is June 21st, year of our Lord, 2024. And now, strangely, the days will begin to get shorter from this point forward, as yesterday was the summer solstice. And so we are now in the downhill climb back toward a shorter day, and summer has officially begun. So summer is here, and we have the temperatures to prove it. A hearing has begun. This was a couple of hours ago. A hearing was heard or is being heard in the classified documents case, focusing on the validity of Jack Smith serving as a special prosecutor in the case. In December, former Reagan administration Attorney General Edwin Meese filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court arguing that Smith's appointment as special counsel was unlawful, and therefore he cannot prosecute Donald Trump. That doesn't do anything about the prosecution itself. It is a specific case determining whether or not Jack Smith has standing in the case. This is something that has indeed been used by courts all across the land for whatever reason. Standing is a very big issue. If Jack Smith does not have standing, then someone else will have to be appointed. The case will therefore have to be put off while the new prosecutor pursues what the government apparently believes is egregious documents being held, or not the documents themselves, but the egregious possession of documents that are classified, as all presidents have always done. And this is specifically between the National Archives and Donald Trump. This is something that is different than any other president has ever faced at any time. And this entire prosecution is dubious at best, in my opinion. How about yours? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. As you remember, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Smith to the position when he was working as a private citizen, with Meese arguing he should have been selected by the president, then confirmed by the Senate, and working with the Justice Department to serve as special counsel. Judge Eileen Cannon, who is under fire and being asked to step aside in the case as well, is hearing from a handful of experts not directly involved in the case regarding the argument that Smith is unqualified to serve as special counsel, including from former Attorney General Edwin Meese. The hearing comes after Trump's trial in the case was delayed as Cannon works through a bevy of motions to dismiss the case. The FBI seized 33 boxes of documents in August of 2022 from Mar-a-Lago, that is Trump's estate in Florida. Trump was charged with 40 felony counts, including allegedly violating the Espionage Act, making false statements to investigators, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Trump has pled not guilty. And then, of course, this harbiges back to Hillary Clinton's famous destruction of an outside server that was penetrated by various countries' intelligence agencies that was inexcusable. And also, by the way, sets aside at least 16 counts of the Espionage Act itself. So once again, this duality in our legal system is something that is destructive to everything we hold dear with regards to equal justice under the law. And it cannot stand. It simply cannot stand. So this was 6 minutes ago. Defense attorney for former President Trump, Emil Bove, or Bove, I believe it's Bove. Let me get that switch taken care of there. Has used the phrase shadow government, which is obviously an analog for deep state government, while arguing against the validity of special counsel Jack Smith's appointment in a Florida hearing on Friday. Bove mentioned the term while describing the situation in which inferior officers, unconfirmed by the Senate, are put in federal power. Quote, "These are the risks we're running," unquote, he said. The Trump defense team argument in the hearing that was that Smith's appointment by Attorney General Merrick Garland in 2022 was unlawful because the Department of Justice's special counsel regulations don't amount to an authorization to appoint a special counsel. Bove claimed, quote, "The text of these statutes can't be used to appoint an official, maybe an employee," unquote. Due to the nature of the appointment, Bove explained that Smith does not report to a superior who provides oversight, instead operating as a free-floating principal officer. Trump's team is making the case because of the improper appointment, the entire classified documents case against the former president should be dismissed. Such a scenario is considered a long shot, and it is. But U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon seems to be giving the arguments serious consideration. She actively questioned lawyers on both sides throughout the first portion of this hearing. Now, this, by the way, is being reported by Fox News. These are live updates, and they go from most recent to farther back. 36 minutes ago, the Manhattan DA's office has filed their formal opposition to former President Donald Trump's request to terminate the gag order against him. The DA's office arguing the purpose of the gag order was to protect certain participants from, quote, threatening, inflammatory, and denigrating statements by Trump, unquote. This is superfluous. This is just plain cockamamie nonsense. The President of the United States does have a right to verbally defend himself against attacks by others. It seems as though the DA office of Alvin Bragg believes that law only works one direction, that there are no threatening issues that go against President Trump or anybody that follows President Trump. And yet those same people can be effectively gagged through stopping President Trump from saying anything based on this possibility that there may be denigrating statements. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's an old adage, and it's very true here. The sticks and stones can be thrown at President Trump, but President Trump can't defend himself from them by throwing some of them back. Are you serious? And then again, this idea that Trump supporters will threaten people that are peripheral to the case is something that I have railed against on this broadcast. If you support President Trump, stop threatening people who don't. If you support President Trump, stop threatening people who do not. Because it's used all the way to the highest halls of legalistic legerdemain against President Trump and against people who support him. And this is a plain violation of free speech. It is a plain violation of American tradition. And yet it is continuing. Continuing with the story here, according to the court documents, the DA's office continued that Trump has not exempt jurors from, quote, his alarming rhetoric that he would have every right to seek retribution as presidents against the participants in the trial as a consequence of his conviction, because sometimes revenge can be justified, which was a statement that was made by Donald Trump. First of all, that is a clever, shall I say, mistranslation of what President Trump has said. President Trump is someone who has looked at the deep state and has said that he will do something to quell and stop the deep state, which are bureaucrats that are clearly partisan politicians using their offices and the law to prosecute and indeed convict their political opposition. And once again, this is not something that is anywhere close to the hallmarks of American equal justice under the law, and certainly not free speech in the First Amendment. This is absolutely ridiculous, in my humble opinion. What's yours? 817-379-2172. Prosecutors say Trump made references to the jurors as a group collectively. One example noted that when the former president said the jury was 95% Democrats. How is that injurious to anyone? It's probably true. The DA's office also says there is no reason to alter or lift the gag order before sentencing, as prosecutors and staff are still heavily involved in the case. They say the DA's office has received nearly 500 threatening emails and phone calls since April of 2024, including bomb threats at the homes of two people involved in the case, April 15th, the first day of the trial. According to the document, it includes a threatening post disclosing the home addresses of a DANY, the District Attorney's Office of New York, and an employee there involved in this prosecution, and an online post depicting sniper sights on people involved in the case or a family member of such a person. This is awful, and this is absolutely something that you cannot do. I mean, this is. You put sniper sights on somebody and there's a clear implication of deadly force violence. What are you doing? Again, if you are a Trump supporter, stop threatening people who are not. Stop it. If you know somebody that's doing it, have a very pointed, intense conversation saying, what are you doing? I mean, whose side are you on? Which also brings up the specter that maybe these threats are not from Trump supporters, but instead from people trying to egg on the DA's office and this gag order. This is, especially during an election year, this is absolutely ridiculous. Again, it has never happened to a president before. None of this has ever happened to a president before. He's never been tried, certainly by a local DA. Just because it's New York doesn't mean it's not just another small town in America. If we're going to have small town American DAs charging presidents with political crimes, then this country has turned a corner that it may not recover from. That's why the Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity is so important. If they muff this decision, the presidency of the United States, as we have known it, will be forever changed. And indeed, that will implicate Joe Biden, even though a special investigator has found that Joe Biden is a well-meaning old man with a faulty memory and is not chargeable insofar as his infirmity makes him a sympathetic object to the jury. Well, if he's incompetent to be able to stand trial, and that's what Robert Hur said, then why is he running the country? Further, if indeed the Supreme Court finds a limit to presidential immunity, why wouldn't President Biden be immediately charged in local, state, even federal circumstances by a DOJ, a Department of Justice, and an Attorney General who follows in the footsteps of Merrick Garland? These precedents will not go away. These precedents set in a legal fashion will not just disappear. And what we will see is the political persecution and prosecution of any particular candidate, any particular office that would be voted on by the people of the United States, indeed rendering the people and their votes as subject to verification by a court of law somewhere. And once again, it doesn't have to be a federal court. It can be a state court, as we've seen in the Georgia case. Unflipping believable. By the way, there is more regarding the Georgia case. Trump lawyers are slamming Georgia DA Fani Willis over a Hail Mary maneuver to avoid misconduct criticism. Fulton County, Georgia DA Fani Willis's Hail Mary court filing to halt a court appeal is an obvious attempt to prevent discovery of her misconduct. This according to attorneys for former President Trump. Last week, Willis argued that the Fulton County Superior Court found there was no sufficient evidence to support their claims that she had a conflict of interest, saying there is no basis to appeal Judge Scott McAfee's ruling, allowing the Atlanta prosecutor to stay on the case. However, in a legal filing yesterday, Trump attorneys told the Georgia Court of Appeals that, quote, without citation to any applicable authority, the state filed this Hail Mary motion to dismiss these meritorious appeals, arguing the court of improvidently, granting interlocutory review. There is no proper procedural vehicle for the state to relitigate the court's sound decision to hear the merits. President Trump has filed this response in opposition to the state's meritless motion to dismiss interlocutory appeal, said Steve Sadow, the lead counsel for Trump, in a statement. The Georgia Court of Appeals granted us the right to appeal after due and proper consideration. The state's Hail Mary motion is an obvious attempt to stop appellate review of DA Willis's misconduct, which is plain. So those are the very basic things that we're dealing with here. Let me see if there's anything else on this Fox News Live update feature here. This from a couple of hours ago. Andy McCarthy is slamming deceptive coverage of Trump's judge hearing on Jack Smith. There is something to be said here. Let me see if I can bring this report up from Fox News. I don't have time. So what I will do is I'll bring that up as we continue this broadcast here on the Wells Report. It is Friday, Fishing Shirt Friday. This is my Magellan fishing shirt. Do you think Magellan should sponsor this broadcast since I've given them so much free advertising on this show? I think they should. I think what they should is they should sponsor the Fishing Shirt Friday segment of the Wells Report. It should be the Magellan Fishing Shirt Friday show. I'll work on the title. Because I think what they should do is they should send me every possible fishing shirt that they have in extra large, please, and send it to me immediately. Send all of them, and I will wear them dutifully because I'm that kind of guy. Coming up a little bit later on, by the way, we've got some amazing things coming up. Van Jones, a former Obama era advisor, has said some very interesting things about Joe Biden. Stick around for that as we continue.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us on the chat room on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon. It's nice to see your written voice or your written words, but by all means, call us because I'd like to hear your voice, 817-379-2172. This is that report regarding the classified documents case. This was on Fox News earlier this morning. Andrew McCarthy has weighed in on the fact that there is deceptive coverage in the mainstream media. Okay, let's take a look at this as we keep rolling on this Friday morning.
It's your life. You just rammed our car.
Oh, good. I forgot about the advertisement. I forgot about the ad. I got to wait for the ad to be over with. It's one of those things. Here we go.
He's also a Fox News contributor. Thanks, Andy, for being here.
Morning.
Speaking to Jeff's point, the defense says that Smith wasn't named to this post or approved by the Senate. And there is precedent for this kind of argument against an independent prosecutor. Typically, it doesn't work out in the defendant's favor. But the New York Times is saying that the judge in this case has entertained some unusual hearings. The one we're seeing today is even going to have evidence in it. Unclear what that evidence is going to be. And they're sort of insinuating that her behavior has been unusual. I want to read you the headline. It says, Judge in Trump documents case rejected suggestions to step aside. 2 federal judges in South Florida privately urged Eileen M.
What a drag. Okay, so shoot. Let me doggone it. Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy claimed the New York Times is deceptively covering U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon's decision to allow a hearing into the legality of special counsel Jack Smith's appointment in the investigation into former President Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents. He said, quote, I think it's deceptive coverage, unquote. Coverage from the New York Times has described the Trump-appointed judge's actions on pretrial motions as slow. They were just getting to that on that report when it malfunctioned. McCarthy explained that there are grounds to question Smith's appointment, and the arguments being made are not frivolous. Prior independent counsels were appointed under a congressional statute, he noted. Either person has to be nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate, or has to occupy a position that Congress has established by law. Remember, this has happened before in notable special counsel cases in the past. So this is a pretty novel and important argument, he said, of Smith's being appointed as special counsel by Attorney General Merrick Garland when he was a private citizen. Let's talk a little bit more about what we're seeing here. The mainstream media, because of the federal court's decision to not allow cameras in their courtrooms, same thing with the New York case regarding the so-called hush money trial. There are no cameras in there. So what does that mean? That means that everything that happens in the courtroom has to be funneled through and filtered by a particular news organization. We have found that all mainstream media news organizations are biased. You have the choice of dealing with a news organization that is biased in your particular favor or one that is not, as opposed to people reporting the laws factually. Many people have pointed out that Fox News has gone down this road, and indeed why they are doing it, I have no idea, but I don't care, because I know this sounds silly, but I'm competing with Fox News, as well as CNN, as well as MSNBC, as well as any other news organization that abandons fact and chooses sides. We don't do that here. This is something that we need to fix. The people of the United States have never seen a president, let alone a presidential candidate, tried in courts around the land. We've never seen that before. We've never seen a president charged in those cases. And because of that, the idea that you cannot present these court proceedings live, unedited, unfettered before the American people is an egregious problem in these cases. The people of the United States have to determine who the next president is going to be, not some judge in some courtroom somewhere, and not with twisted news coverage of those court proceedings, twisted in your favor or not, depending on your point of view on this case. And this will, again, set a dangerous precedent for the future. We, the people of the United States, have an ironclad right to be able to access these proceedings on video, live, without the interference of a biased mainstream media. I'm the only one talking about this, except, of course, for Andy McCarthy. He says, well, this is biased coverage. Well, yes, it is. The only way that you and I can make a reasoned decision based on what we think, instead of what some news organization thinks, is by seeing these proceedings live. And that they don't do it is absolutely awful. It's just absolutely awful. It has no basis in reality. Just like many of these cases against a former president or a sitting one. And if you are very, very pleased that Trump is going through all of these very difficult legal situations, you have to ask yourself a question. When all this is done and when Joe Biden is out of office, is he going to be charged by any prosecutor who feels that there were bad things done? I would say, yeah, that's going to happen. Are you going to be happy about that? Or are you going to sit there and say, my God, this is unfair. This is terrible. We should be able to see the coverage live from the courtroom. We shouldn't have all of this information filtered through a mainstream media biased source like Fox. Well, that's all ahead of you. This precedent is being set. Chasing down presidencies because of political differences is third world, banana republic crap, and it cannot stand in this nation, and it must not stand in this nation. You're watching The Wells Report. Our telephone number again is 817-379-2172. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Here we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We de-propagandize the mainstream media. We also offer commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion. Yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good to have you here today. This is Friday, the 21st of June, year of our Lord, 2024. It's Fishing Shirt Friday. Magellan. Yeah, Magellan fishing shirts. They're perfect. Not expensive, comfortable. Yeah. And when it gets hot, and it's going to get hotter because the first day of summer is nigh, you're going to need these fishing shirts. So by all means, get used to wearing them every Friday when you join us on the broadcast. Have your fishing shirt on. A very, very good idea. And yes, I believe that Magellan should sponsor this broadcast. I do. So off we go. So we were just talking about President Trump being gagged by the New York DA's office. Well, he is not the only person, the New York DA's office. I was talking about Alvin Bragg. Well, Alvin Bragg is not the only person trying to mute the president. Specifically, the first debate of the 2024 presidential election season is near, and it's going to be different from what we've seen. And some of those things, some of those changes are very, very good, and some of them are not. Many aspects of the 2024 Trump-Biden presidential race are basically deja vu. But organizers of this year's first debate between the two candidates are hoping to avoid the interruption-ridden clamor, the food fight that marked the first 2020 face-off by muting mics between answers. This being reported, by the way, by USA Today. Debate host CNN is bringing back the muted microphone format first instituted by the Commission on Presidential Debates in 2020 after a raucous first debate between the two candidates, September 29th in Cleveland. The event was largely characterized by a flurry of interruptions, particularly from then-President Donald Trump. If there is something arguing against a second Donald Trump presidency, it's his self-discipline. President Trump is extemporaneous. He says a lot of things that are immediately used as bludgeons against him by a politically correct, and I mean politically correct, not from a racial or social group standpoint. I'm talking about politically correct regarding the typical political traditions that have decorated media coverage of presidents and debates in the past. And when I bring all this stuff up, I sit and I think to myself, it's really important that these people be able to be heard. And when you are President Trump and you feel the need to impulsively interrupt your opponent, you're screwing up. You absolutely are. Now, this debate comes down to a couple of different things for me. President Biden does not have a record he can run on with any kind of validity. So he has to make Donald Trump the issue of the campaign. Donald Trump's background, Donald Trump's obviously politically choreographed convictions in a New York court. He has to say, my God, we can't do this. But Donald Trump is not the issue here. Inflation is the issue. The southern border is the issue. The overall competence of the Biden administration with regards to the military. Those things are issues that the people of the United States care about. Donald Trump is not one of those issues. But Joe Biden doesn't have anything else to stand on. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has a problem with making loose statements. And making those loose statements can be against the orthodoxy of typical media coverage. At least this is going to be live. That's a good thing. So CNN going back to the muted microphone. Is that a good idea? Well, we'll find out here in just a couple of moments. CNN said both candidates agreed to accept the network's list of rules for the debate as outlined in letters sent to the Biden and Trump campaigns in May. These rules included a muted microphone, which will only be unmuted when it's a respective candidate's turn to speak. That being a stark contrast from the Trump campaign's outcry over the muted mic rule in 2020. In a letter to the Bipartisan Commission on Presidential Debates at the time of the format change, former President Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien strongly objected to the new rule. He called it completely unacceptable for anyone to wield such power, said it would give further editorial control of the debate over to the commission, which had already demonstrated its partiality to President Biden. That was a valid statement at that time. And that was unfortunately blown out of the water by their own candidate. When President Trump interrupts his political opponent, he loses. He's got to stop it. Any politician just simply needs to be patient and wait. Now you're saying, okay, well, that's what Timothy Scott did during the absolute abomination of the Republican presidential primary debates. He was measured. He waited for his turn and basically got run over by the other people trying to out-idiot each other. Well, this is different. This is a debate between two men. And the problems that we have are partiality toward President Biden, obviously by CNN. And there are some mistakes made in this particular set of rules. I'll get to those coming up in just a couple of moments. So the moderators are CNN's Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. They will, quote, use all the tools at their disposal to enforce timing and ensure a civilized discussion, unquote. Sure. But you can't let your rules do your thinking for you. Say, for example, what if President Trump or President Biden is making a cogent response and runs out of time? You just cut off his microphone. That happened, by the way, with Joe Biden in a presidential primary debate where he said, my time is up, right in the middle of a statement. And of course, that was immediately turned into, yes, President Biden or candidate Biden, your time is up. This was in 2020. Because he'd been there for half a century and was railing against the government he'd been a part of for that time. Okay, is that what we want to see? Will Dana Bash and Jake Tapper actually extend the time, or will there be a hard wall? And does that not give too much editorial control of the debate to CNN? There is another problem. Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, demonstratedly anti-Trump. How can they possibly be fair? They can't. And how can the mainstream media itself be fair? Again, it cannot. CNN, for any credibility in this debate, should have included in the moderating panel a couple of journalists that had proven themselves to be pro-Trump. Because that way there can be a reasoned debate. I don't have any problem whatsoever with the candidates being alone without a studio audience. I think that's something that is long overdue. The first presidential debate between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon didn't have a studio audience. And the raucousness of that studio audience is distracting to the debate. Now we get to the problems of both candidates with regard to the debates. We're going to start with a CNN report that talks a little bit about the possibilities of a damaging evening for President Biden. And what was fascinating on this particular circumstance, the commentator was Van Jones, who was an Obama-era advisor. And he was very strict and very straightforward and pointed when he talked about the possibilities of Joe Biden blowing it.
This is the entire election as far as I'm concerned. The entire world will be watching. If you are a carbon-based life form, you're going to be watching. If you've got a functioning brainstem, you're going to be watching. Because if Biden goes out there and messes up, it's game over. If he walks out there and a week later he's lower in the polls, it's panic in the party. But if he goes in there and he can handle himself against Donald Trump, a runaway train, a locomotive, a raging bull, then this guy deserves another shot to be president, because that is tough. You couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. If you can stand toe to toe with a runaway train like Donald Trump for an hour and a half, you are fit to be president, period, point blank. This is the whole presidency in a bottle in a week.
Yeah, that is Van Jones. And regardless of what you think of Van Jones, that guy really has a clear eye on American politics. I don't have any problem with Van Jones, except, of course, when he goes off the reservation with regards to the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, which he does from time to time. But Joe Biden isn't the only one that has that specter of demise hanging over his head. Remember, I was talking about how President Trump is freewheeling. And presidents typically are not freewheeling. They are carefully measured. They are disciplined in their messaging. And President Trump has some threats and some difficulties there too. These two guys are going to get together. I'm worried about President Biden. I pointed this out on X the other day. As a matter of fact, it was yesterday. I said that it is obvious that Joe Biden is medicated to some degree to combat old age dementia. It is not based on so much as gaffes. Yes, he's been a gaffe machine, but this is deterioration. I based my entire idea about his fitness for president not by what he said, but by the way he moved, him falling down, him having difficulty walking, all of these things. These things come together with what is clearly cerebral deterioration. And yes, there are medications that can help you. They are stimulants. They are, and we're not talking about, trying to essentially drug the guy into competence. We're talking about putting him in a position where if he is indeed given the stimulation that he needs to be able to come out as somebody who can cope with Donald Trump, well, that has other systemic effects, like blood pressure. That is an old brain. President Biden has an old brain, and pushing it too far could push it beyond the physical limits. What are we going to do? How is this country going to react if Joe Biden on national television during a presidential debate has a stroke? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be mad as hell at the people that put him in the position in the first place. I'm going to be mad as hell at the doctors who tried to medicate him into some form of cogent thought and put him in a position where indeed he could have a very serious physical event on national television. I'm going to talk about the Democrat National Committee putting this guy in the position in the first place. To me, it's elder abuse. And if this president malfunctions physically, I am going to absolutely rain on their parade. Now, politically, verbally, logically, well, that's the chance that Joe Biden takes. And he has shown deficits in all those areas. President Trump has got to be measured. He's got to basically look past Joe Biden and speak directly to the American people. If I was President Trump, I wouldn't I wouldn't respond to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is simply going to try to get him into a fist fight, figuratively, of course. I wouldn't even rise to the bait. I would just sit there and go, yeah, that's wrong. And then start talking about where the country should go for the next 4 years, speaking directly to the American people. He should use this as an opportunity to ignore his opponent and move forward with an agenda that the American people will vote for. That's the way I see it. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. What do you think? Give us a call. Let us know. Tell us on the chat room. We'll be back with more of this broadcast for Friday in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. I'm John David Wells. It's happened again. 2 men have been charged in the killing of a 12-year-old Houston girl. She was found strangled to death in a creek this week. The people responsible are Venezuelan migrants who entered the United States illegally. This is something that Joe Biden is going to have to be held accountable for in the debate that we were just talking about. He's going to have to answer for this. Johan Jose Rangel Martinez, 21 years of age, Franklin Jose Peña Ramos, 26, are linked to the death of Jocelyn Nungary and face capital murder charges, according to the Houston Police Department. Peña Ramos illegally crossed into El Paso, Texas in May. Sources with the Department of Homeland Security confirmed to Fox News he was caught by Border Patrol agents, was released into the U.S. with a notice to appear in court. Rangel Martinez also crossed illegally into El Paso in March, was caught by the Border Patrol. He was released into the U.S. on an unknown basis. The policies responsible for these deaths put blood on the hands of the people making the policies. They should be held as accessories to murder. It's been a bad week for this kind of thing. Maryland and Missouri are not border states. New York touches Canada, not Mexico. However, all three appeared in shocking headlines this week in connection with alleged kidnappings, murders, rapes, blamed on illegal migrants attacking girls and women. In Texas, 2 more illegals accused of strangling a 12-year-old for motives that remain unknown. The string of crimes comes as the Biden administration continues to struggle with illegal crossings of the U.S.-Mexico border. Victor Martinez Hernandez faces charges of first-degree murder and rape. This after police alleged he did such attacks in broad daylight in a Queens, New York park. We all suspected Rachel was not his first victim. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. He raped Rachel Morin. That was different. That was in Maryland. There's another one. There's so many of these, it's hard to keep track. By the way, let me start over. Victor Martinez Hernandez faces charges of first-degree murder and rape after police allege he attacked Rachel Morin on a trail in Bel Air, Maryland, and apparently Morin was not his first victim. We all suspected Rachel was not his first victim, said Harford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gawler in a statement after the arrest. It's my understanding the suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador in January of 2023. Martinez Hernandez entered the U.S. illegally February 2023. The following month, a woman and her 9-year-old daughter were attacked in a home invasion in Los Angeles. Let's see, in New York City, this is the story I was just talking about. The police responded to a call after a group of Good Samaritans encountered a wanted rape suspect accused of tying 2 13-year-olds together in a park, gagging them, and then raping the girl before stealing their cell phones. That was Christian Giovanni Ingalandi, 25 years of age. And then we talked about the young woman, the young girl in Houston. The policies of the United States government in leaving the border as it is, in hindering real law enforcement at the border, failing to properly vet these people crossing our border and then just released into the United States. These people have blood on their hands. They are accessories to murder. And yeah, I'm talking about President Biden and the people that are pulling the strings in the Biden administration, thankfully insulated by the fact that they can just point at Joe and say, well, he was doing it. Well, he's not doing it. Joe Biden isn't running this administration. So who are those people? These people are the people that are killing Americans by allowing henchmen to come across the border unfettered, captured by law enforcement, and then just released. Oh, no, we vet all these people. Oh, no, you don't. You don't vet all these people. That is fantasy. It is fiction. It is lies. It's ridiculous. And it's killing Americans. We have a choice to make. Are we going to have a nation, or are we going to have essentially a shooting, raping, murdering gallery for people that come to the United States pleading that they're being persecuted in their own countries? We need asylum. You got to help us. No, we don't. Because likely you're a criminal in your own country.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Remember, we were talking about the duality of the U.S. justice system. We were talking about how there are two tiers of justice. One for leftist, progressive, Democrat hooligans, and another for Republicans. Well, it's happened again. And right out in broad daylight. I have no idea how these people get away with this. It was being reported today in the New York Post that nearly all the protesters charged with storming and occupying Columbia University's campus during heated anti-Jewish bigoted protests will not face criminal charges. Manhattan prosecutors, DA Alvin Bragg, announced yesterday that they have dismissed cases against 31 of 46 people charged with the trespassing in the Ivy League school's Hamilton Hall after a dramatic April 30th NYPD raid rounded up protesters on the Morningside Heights campus. Prosecutors largely cited lack of evidence. Lack of evidence. How much news coverage, footage, and footage is the wrong, how much news coverage video is there of these people? How many calls from cell phones inside Hamilton Hall to DoorDash so they could get something to eat? How many cries for water? My God, we've occupied this building and we don't have enough water. Nobody turned off the water to the building. What's your problem? Well, that's just the absurd juvenile stupidity of this particular circumstance. And normally you just write it off as a bunch of kids being idiots, right down to where it gets to anti-Jewish bigotry. And that makes them criminals, in my view. Had it been an anti-black protest, they would be in jail now. But it's just the Jews. Who cares? I care. District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office dismissed those charges, citing lack of evidence, such as security video footage that could tie the students to the staff or the staff to the building takeover for leaving them free and clear without even a slap on the wrist. The dismissals, by the way, in case you're wondering, drew immediate fury from rank-and-file NYPD officers, higher education officials, and Jewish leaders who spoke with the New York Post. This is turnstile justice, said Michael Nussbaum, 25-year-old member of the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York. This is a green light for chaos, a green light for destroying property, a green light for rancid anti-Jewish bigotry. I added that last part. Manhattan District Attorney Stephen Millen said that prosecutors had trouble moving forward with charges due to extremely limited video surveillance that could not prove anything was damaged inside the building. Milan told, it's Milan, not Millen. There was an extra L in that copy. Anyway, Milan told Judge Kevin McGrath that cameras inside Hamilton Hall were covered up during the police raid. No cops were injured. It would be extremely difficult for the people to prove any charge of misconduct in a Manhattan criminal court, adding that each of the individuals getting their cases tossed had no criminal history. Protesters wore masks, making it difficult to point out the specific antics of each individual. Students and staffers at Columbia, Barnard, or Union Theological Seminary who had their charges dropped faced disciplinary action by the school, which also factored into the decision, according to prosecutors. This is poppycock. It's absolute crap. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially under the harsh reality of what happened to January 6th protesters. January 6th protesters. What was it? They messed up a table, a couple of chairs, etc. And then, of course, Ashley Babbitt got shot in the face by a federal agent who still, by the way, walks around lauded as a hero. Thank God you defended us against an unarmed U.S. Air Force veteran. Good for you. Yeah. Well, so the First Amendment applies if you're anti-Jewish, you're bigots, and you're leftists in New York. But if you're conservative, right-wing, Trump-supporting people of the right, then you're going to jail. Jail, prison. These people are being let off. Oh, we can't. We just can't see that they did any damage. Was there any damage? Was there any damage to anything? If there was damage to anything, then everybody inside the building there illegally should be charged. Well, you can't collectively charge anybody. Sure you can. We saw it done during January 6th. The only people that should be in jail with January 6th are people that put their hands on police officers and injured them. There were 15,000 people there. And the FBI tried to chase them all down. Wanted posters coast to coast. Where are the wanted posters for these people? Well, there's no wanted posters. They're Democrats. Come on, they're college kids. We're not going to do that. Right. You're not going to do that. Because there's a two-tiered legal system in the United States. One for leftists, one for Republicans and Trump supporters. It's outrageous. We keep talking about this. It keeps happening. BLM protesters? Yeah, a few went to jail. A few. For what? 30 days? 60 days? There are people in Washington, D.C. jails that are going to be there for nearly a decade. They are political prisoners. And now we have this anti-Jewish bigotry writ large across the campuses of major universities all across the country. Doing stupid cockamamie things like, oh, I don't know, occupying a building. Sort of like the January 6th people did. It's interesting that in this particular article in the mainstream coverage, they don't talk about the damage that was done inside the building. I assure you there was damage done inside the building, Hamilton Hall. But that works against the narrative, doesn't it? This is outrageous. It's just unfair, unreal, un-American, unconstitutional, un-Bill of Rights, unequal protection under the law. Unequal protection under the law. So there is an NBC report on this particular topic. Let's bring that to you now here on the Wells Report as they try to explain exactly what's going on with this decision by the Manhattan DA's office and Alvin Bragg.
Some people here on the ground have been a bit surprised by this. So 31 of the 46 people charged in connection to the occupation of Hamilton Hall have had their charges dismissed entirely. Another 14 were told basically that their charges would be dropped if they had good behavior for the next 6 months. But they refused that deal. So those 14 will be back in court in late July, so just a couple weeks away. There's really only one person who it looks like is going to face major consequences, and that's a guy named James Carlson. Our colleague Tom Winter covered him extensively. He was the guy whose face was plastered all over the place in the days after the occupation. He is described as an outside agitator by many people, not an affiliated Columbia student. And he's the only person who is right now facing some of the serious charges, like a flag burning, for example. And so, for many students, that means that now really the remaining piece of this is the internal discussion, the hearings that are going to happen at Columbia. Are they suspended? Are they expelled? Are they able to return to school at the end of the summer? That's what they're waiting to hear about.
Yeah, that is what they're waiting to hear about. So the only person facing serious charges is an outside agitator, huh? I'm going to say it right here, right now, on this 21st day of June. There won't be any charges pressed against this guy. Oh, yeah? Why don't you think there are going to be charges pressed against this guy? It's a two-word answer. Ray Epps. Ray Epps. Isn't it strange that so many people, so many hooligans were arrested during the January 6th campaign or protest in the Capitol building? And Ray Epps, who is essentially ringleading the entire thing, not arrested? Isn't that strange? He was the face of the January 6th riot, but he's not in jail. Why? How come Ray Epps isn't in jail? Well, I'm not guilty of anything. Really? How about the people in jail? Are they guilty of anything? Well, sure. The court said so. Uh-huh. Right. How come you're not in jail, Ray? You should call me on the telephone, Ray Epps. You should call me, 817-379-2172. Let's talk it over. Convince me. Convince me that you're not, I don't know, an agent provocateur provided by the U.S. government to incite and indeed direct the actions of January 6th protesters. Let's talk about that. I bet you won't. And the reason I bet you won't is because I'm not going to play softball with you. I'm also not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to be a jackass. I'm going to ask Ray Epps very serious and pointed questions. How come you're not in jail, Ray? Then I'm going to listen to his answer. Then I'm going to say, well, why is it that you're not in jail when the people you were directing are? Why is that? Well, because I wasn't telling them to go in there and break things. Right. President Trump didn't tell people to go in there and break things, but he got prosecuted. He got prosecuted in an impeachment, which is prosecution for the President of the United States. There should be an analog for you, Ray. What's going on? Give me the news. Likewise, I want to talk to, I don't know, Adam Schiff. I don't want to talk to Adam Schiff. He's a pathological, he's a psychopath. I'm not interested in that, but I would like to talk with Liz Cheney. I'd love to talk with Liz Cheney and just find out just exactly what's going on in there. And yeah, I would normally want to talk to Alvin Bragg about this very ill-advised decision. And you know, it's not just this. What this does is this gives a precedent to other prosecutors around the country. Now, the prosecutors in Manhattan, they're getting their butts kicked in the public opinion sphere because of this ridiculous decision. And they should. They should have real problems. But how is it going to be spun by the mainstream media? Right now, there's outrage. Well, the New York Times is going to get a hold of the story, and they're going to carefully explain why it's a reasoned decision. These people are at the beginning of their lives. My God, they're just kids. No. They're just wannabe Hamas terrorists. Yeah, that's right. Remember these kids going out and marking Jewish houses with Palestinian symbols that mean marked for death? Those aren't kids. Those aren't juveniles. Those are terrorists. You got a bunch of terrorists in Hamilton Hall. Oh, we don't have any evidence. Were they in the building? Well, yeah, that's why we arrested them. Well, then they're guilty of incitement to riot? You got to charge them with something, but all the charges dropped, huh? Duality in the American legal system. Unequal application. Unequal justice under the law. It's plain and simple. It's straightforward. It's not going for, some people at times like this say, I hope I live long enough to see your comeuppance. But we're not going to have to wait long. We're not going to have to wait long at all. Because this particular story will turn. Soon it will be leftists that are thrown in jail under political circumstances. And the same intellectual bankruptcy I accuse the Biden administration and the American DOJ, the same intellectual bankruptcy against January 6 people versus these kids, I'm going to focus when they start doing the same thing to Democrats. Because it's wrong. It's not wrong because I happen to hold constitutional views, which for some strange reason makes me some sort of right-wing conspiracy cretin, which I'm not. I'm a constitutionalist. I quote the Constitution. I don't quote Republican talking points. But this is going to turn. Soon, your side is going to be persecuted. And yeah, I'll rail against the people persecuting the Democrats and those protesters from the other side. And I certainly will. But I will take certain satisfaction in being able to see you started this. You are the agents that propelled the United States of America into political persecution and prosecution of people on the losing side. You started it. And in the famous words of another agent provocateur that should have been removed from office, Chuck Schumer, you will reap the whirlwind of this. You certainly, absolutely will. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We saw the videos. They were creepy. We saw the videos of various objects flying through the sky. Fighter pilots who spend their entire life identifying targets from the cockpits of their fighter jet aircraft, seeing things they had never seen before, really trying to figure out what's going on. Many people say, what the heck are these things? And then there were people that stepped out of the shadows and said, hey, you know what? I want you to know some stuff. You know, we saw this. See this? Yeah, that thing right there. This is being shot with thermal imagery. But what you don't see is you don't see any kind of propulsion. So just exactly what that is. Don't pay any attention to the actual sound. That's not the sound this object is making. That's just electronic noise. What is this? And why is it that we don't get to know? Why don't we get to know what that is? Well, it's a national security issue. We just can't share that with you. We can't, and we won't. Well, there are people that say, I'm not going to bind myself by those rules, and I'm going to talk about this with the American public. Those are called whistleblowers. And one of them is Lou Elizondo. UFO whistleblowers, according to Fox News, are being threatened. Protections currently in place are a joke. This, according to a congressman who has been speaking out. Lou Elizondo, who was the head of a secretive Pentagon unit that studied UFOs, have said that there are threats being made against him and several other whistleblowers formerly associated with the UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, effort in the U.S. government. Quote, I'd like to make this perfectly clear to the American people. I am not prone to accidents. I am not suicidal. I am not abusing drugs. I am not engaged in any illicit activities, Elizondo said in a statement to the Good Trouble show on May 15th. If something happens to me or my family members in the future, you will know what happened. Representative Tim Burchett, the Republican from Tennessee, who has been one of the lawmakers leading the push for full UFO disclosure, is a personal friend of Elizondo. There is whistleblower protection, but it's a joke. And we all know it's a joke, said Burchett. The congressman and Elizondo had dinner around the time Elizondo made it known he was being threatened. He did not detail what the threats were or who made them, but Burchett expressed his anger and said he is alarmed. I bet. Lou's a dear friend of mine, and I take any threat against anybody seriously, especially against friends and somebody that has given so much to this country and to this issue, said Burchett. So I'm very much aware of it. I'm very much alarmed. I'm pursuing every avenue I can to get to the bottom of it. The threats aimed at Elizondo and UF whistleblowers are not new, but are in the latest in a disturbing trend. Last July, by the way, this is according to Fox News. I said that. Last July, David Grush identified in front of Congress that his life was threatened, that he was instructed to keep quiet about a secret government-run crashed UFO retrieval program. I can't get into the specifics in an open forum, but what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing, said Grush, a former U.S. intelligence officer and Air Force veteran. I faced brutal, unfortunate tactics of retribution that he called administrative terrorism. Elizondo was the former leader of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a shadow government program created from the ashes of the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program. Veteran journalist George Knapp wrote in his testimony to Congress. Then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada started the program in 2009 to investigate the potential next generation of aerospace technologies, according to a March report by the Pentagon's UFO-focused office called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. Specifically, the AATIP was focused on advanced lift, propulsion, and use of unconventional materials and controls, and signature reduction. I was just talking about that particular UFO, the video off the top, and how it wasn't putting out any kind of thermal imagery that would indicate propulsion. So just exactly how is it moving? Well, we don't know. Although investigating UFO UAP was not specifically outlined in the contract statement of work, the selected private sector organizations conducted UFO research, according to AARO. This research including reviewing new cases and much older Project Blue Book cases, operating debriefing and investigatory teams, and proposals set up laboratories to examine any recovered UFO materials. Okay. George Knapp is a friend of mine. I worked with George in Las Vegas. But somehow I've lost his phone number, but I really want to talk to him about this. George, if you happen to be watching, give me a buzz. 817-379-2172. So, are there secret government programs that are advancing technology in this nation? Yes, absolutely. And are those programs giving us technology that is that it would be irresponsible to provide to the American public? Yes. Is one of those programs the reverse engineering of UFO aircraft, spacecraft, whatever? Maybe. But that being said, there's nothing wrong with letting us know about it unless it genuinely does revert back to national security. The SR-71 was one of these black projects. That's perfectly fine. We don't need to know about that stuff. But at some point, this, especially where people are being threatened for telling the story, something needs to be done. That's the way I see it on the Wells Report. Hey, listen, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. If you find any value to it, subscribe. Send it to your friends. Share it. Have them subscribe. Give us thumbs ups. Light the notification button so you know when we're on the air. God bless you and yours. And I will see you again. I guess it's going to be Monday, huh? Monday, 11 to 1. I know I've been moving the time around. But 11 to 1, Monday, for another edition of the Wells Report. I will look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your fishing shirt.